Alright, so we already settled the debate between the Sharingan and the Byakugan, although it wasn't really too much of a competition. Today we're going to be discussing their next evolutions, or the next step up, the Rinnegan and the Tenseigan. Now, I wanted to talk about them individually first, before I kind of get into the logistics of which is better, offers more abilities, and which one will be more useful in a fight against the other. Now, starting with the Rinnegan, I'm sure many of you already know that it gives you access to a plethora of abilities. For starters, it gives you access to all 5 basic nature transformations. It allows you to utilize all the abilities of the passive pain, including, extreme attractive and repulsive forces, mechanically altering your body, extracting souls through the human path, special summoning with the animal path, restore wounds with the Naraka path by jumping into this guy's mouth, and apparently he regenerates clothing too. So it also gives you access to an extremely destructive ability called the Chibaku Tensei, which has multiple purposes. I also have a video explaining that one if you guys want to go check that out. But long story short, it's like a big ball of doom. It's a massive meteor looking rock that can be used to seal away tailed beasts or just to squish you like a bug. Now, some Rinnegan users have also showcased other abilities that seem to be unique to them, such as Madara's Limbo clones and Sasuke's ability to switch places with anyone and anything. Sasuke has also utilized the ability to absorb chakra from Naruto in their last fight. Although it hasn't really been used too often, it is an ability of the Rinnegan and would have been useful in many instances if it wasn't ripped out of his face. Now, on top of all of these offensive abilities, it also gives the user access to space-time ninjutsu, which is greatly utilized in the Boruto franchise, but unfortunately wasn't really talked about towards the end of Shippuden. So the Tenseigan was basically pulled out of the left side of Kishimoto's butt when he decided that he needed a new Dojutsu for the last hour of a movie. Many of you know that it's blue, but not many of you know what it does. So let's kind of get into that for a second. So this essentially occurs when an Otsutsuki is implanted with the eyes of a Hyuga, and it's essentially representative of some of Hamura's powers, such as how the Rinnegan is representative of Hagoromo's, and it gives the user access to some basic attractive and repulsive forces very similar to the Diva Path, and it also allows you the ability to fly, and you gain a Tenseigan chakra mode. I don't really know why, but it's very similar to Naruto's chakra mode, which is able to fight on par at first with Naruto's Sage Enhanced QB chakra mode, although it ended up being futile in the end. On top of this huge physical amp that it gives you, it also gives you access to create your own truth-seeking orbs that can produce these beams that can slice the moon in half. But even with all this, when you're playing Mortal Kombat and you unplug the other controller, that's basically what happened to Tsuneri when Naruto one-shot him, and for some reason the Tenseigan reverted back to its original Byakugan, so it doesn't seem to be permanent, but I'm assuming this is just because he lost the fight. And although it's not stated, I'm assuming that it could potentially also give you some visual enhancements at least equal to that of the Byakugan, since it's an evolved version or evolved state, and perhaps gives you a similar field of vision. Although these aren't really confirmed, these are just my headcanon. Now, as far as sheer utilities and variety of uses, the Rinnegan heavily takes the cake on this one. We literally spend the whole second half of Shippuden watching this Dojutsu as it's just shredding higher tier characters and seems to have so many utilizations. Now, the Tenseigan, on the other hand, has had so little usage and was only really showcased in battle by Toneri, although Hamura is also supposed to have it as well. Now, a fight between these two will be much tougher, as the Rinnegan doesn't really give you as much of a physical buff. It more gives you hacks abilities, while a Tenseigan gives you access to this chakra mode and these truth-seeking orbs. I also have a video on that one, which is not really a joke. So the Chibaku Tenseis that we see utilized by these non-6-path level characters seem to be one of the abilities with the highest amount of damage output and overall strength, and you're comparing that to these truth-seeking orbs that can slice through the moon. Also, something very interesting to know is that the Tenseigan is utilized by Otsutsukis, while the Rinnegan can be utilized by basically anyone who has it implanted, right? Like Nagato, for example. So if a non-6-pass level character with a Rinnegan were to fight someone with a Tenseigan, they would just get obliterated, just destroyed. Their best bet is either to try to steal their chakra, steal their soul, or seal them away. Most of these probably wouldn't work. First of all, the Otsutsuki wouldn't just sit there and wait for you to steal their chakra, as they are probably familiar with the ability because some of their fellow Otsutskis literally have the Rinnegan. We also see that the Chibaku Tensei can seal away people, but this seems to depend on the user's strength, as the Diva Path Chibaku Tensei wasn't really able to hold Naruto's 8-tails state, although there's some debate saying that he could have held them if he had more time, but that doesn't really change the argument, you know what I mean? And later Sasuke, who's significantly more powerful, is able to seal away all these tailed beasts, no problem. Now, I know it's a little bit unfair comparing Otsutsukis to to non-six path level characters, but even if you take the same character against themselves, one with the Rinnegan, one with the Tenseigan, it's more than likely that the Tenseigan would probably take the cake on this one, because it seems to be more of an offensive Dojutsu, right? It has more offensive abilities, whereas the Rinnegan is more like hacks, you know what I mean? Like, for example, I made a video with Six talking about nerfed Sasuke without his Rinnegan versus Alive Madara and the Jubi Madara, and we kind of agreed that the Rinnegan isn't really as much of a extreme power amp. It gives you more hacks abilities, and Sasuke didn't really use those hacks abilities too much to begin with. While on the other hand, you have this chakra mode comparable to Naruto's, and these truth-seeking orbs who can do some serious damage and kill you with a touch. So I'd say probably in a head-to-head match, I would give the fight to the Tenseigan, but I would give it to the Rinnegan if we're talking about the overall abilities and utilities that you gain access to, right? Now again, a lot of this stuff is subject to debate depending on exactly who has either one of these dojutsus, but just overall, those are my basic opinions on the topic. If you guys have something to add, just feel free to let me know down below. Also, definitely be sure to let me know if I forgot something, and if you guys like more videos like this, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.